When you've spent a few weeks hunting for a slicer, the temptation to grab the cheapest thing on the shelf is huge. I've seen a lot of home cooks buy a low-cost countertop model, only to discover it stalls on a thick roast or leaves a ragged edge on a loaf of cheese. The regret that follows feels almost personal, like you've let your kitchen down. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So the question I keep hearing is, does the Globe C10 Chefmate 10-inch manual slicer actually feel like a smarter buy, or is it just another budget gamble? The first thing I considered was the everyday scenario most people face. You're prepping a weekend barbecue, you need uniform pork loin slices for a sandwich bar, or you're trying to get those delicate deli-style turkey slices for a low-fat lunch. A good slicer should handle a range of thicknesses without choking, and it should do it quietly enough that you don't have to shout over a humming motor. The Globe C10 promises a 1/3 HP motor with a grooved belt drive that keeps the blade moving smoothly, even when you feed a denser piece of meat. In practice, that belt drive is the kind of detail that matters when the motor is under load. Unlike a direct drive unit that can skip a beat, the grooved belt spreads the force, which translates to fewer stalls and less wear on the motor over time. What really sets this model apart is the Hardchromed, special alloy hollow ground knife. It's not just a fancy description. The hollow grind means less material in the blade's core, reducing heat buildup during extended use. I tested it slicing a chilled rotisserie chicken, a block of cheddar, and a few inches of frozen pepperoni. On the chicken, the slices came out even, about a 1/4 inch thick, with barely any tearing. The cheese glided through cleanly, and the pepperoni, despite being frozen, didn't cause the blade to snag. That consistency is something you rarely get from a $30 entry-level slicer. Another practical feature is the top-mounted all-metal knife sharpener. Most slicers either leave sharpening to a separate tool or provide a plastic sharpening stone that wears out quickly. The metal sharpener on the C10 lets you hone the blade without taking the unit apart. After a few hours of use, I ran the sharpener a couple of times and the blade's edge felt just as crisp as it did out of the box. For anyone who slices regularly, that built-in maintenance option saves both time and money. Now, let's talk about the downsides that only become clear after you've spent a day with the machine. First, the motor's 3-amp draw means you need a reliable outlet. A cheap extension cord can cause voltage drop and the overload protection will trip. The safety reset is manual, which is fine for occasional hiccups, but if you're running the slicer for a full catering job and it trips repeatedly, you'll be stopping to reset it more often than you'd like. Second, the 10-inch blade length is generous for most home needs, but it does make the overall footprint a little larger than a 7-inch counterpart. In a cramped kitchen, the unit sits close to the countertop edge, so you need at least a foot of clearance behind it for the food carriage to move freely. Who should buy this? If you're a home chef who slices meat, cheese, or baked goods at least a few times a week, the Globe C10 offers a solid balance of power and durability without the price tag of commercial-grade equipment. It also makes sense for small-scale food service operators. Think a boutique deli or a farmer's market stall who need consistent slices but can't justify a $500 electric slicer. The built-in sharpener and motor overload protection are practical touches that keep downtime low, which matters when you're serving a line of customers. Who should skip it? If you're only looking to slice a loaf of bread once a month, you'll likely be better off with a simple rotary knife. Also, if you need a super compact unit for a studio apartment kitchen, the C10's footprint might feel bulky. Finally, anyone who expects to slice large, bony cuts like a whole turkey leg will find the 1/3 HP motor hitting its limits. You'll need a heavier-duty machine for that level of work. The value proposition of the Globe C10 comes from the combination of a reliable motor, a well-engineered blade, and the all-metal sharpener that keeps the blade at peak performance. At its price point, you're getting a piece of equipment that feels more like a commercial tool than a throwaway kitchen gadget. The few trade-offs, manual reset on overload and a slightly larger footprint, are manageable for most serious home users. If you're the type who gets frustrated by uneven deli slices or spends an hour carving a roast by hand, this slicer will save you time and give you a cleaner presentation. In short, the Globe C10 Chefmate delivers on the promise of consistent, slice-perfect results without the headache of a flimsy budget model. It's a solid middle ground for anyone who slices.